In the summer of 1967, America was a nation simmering with racial tension. Cities across the country experienced unrest, but none would burn as fiercely, or for as long, as Detroit. For 5 days in July, the Motor City became a battleground, witnessing one of the deadliest and most destructive civil disturbances in United States history. The events of those days left 43 people dead, over 1,000 injured, and thousands more arrested, forever altering the landscape and the soul of a once thriving metropolis. This is the story of the 1967 Detroit Riot, a tragic culmination of decades of systemic injustice and a stark warning of the consequences when grievances are left unaddressed. The Detroit Riot, often referred to by many as a rebellion or an uprising, was not a spontaneous explosion, but the result of deep-seated frustrations that had been building for years. Decades of racial discrimination in housing, employment, and education had created a deeply segregated city. African Americans, despite contributing significantly to Detroit's industrial boom, faced systemic barriers to upward mobility and lived in overcrowded, neglected neighborhoods. Police brutality was rampant, a daily reality for many Black residents, fostering a profound sense of distrust and resentment towards law enforcement. The city's political leadership, largely white, was perceived as unresponsive to the needs and concerns of its Black population. Adding to this volatile mix was the economic downturn affecting Detroit's auto industry. Automation and outsourcing led to job losses, disproportionately impacting Black workers who had fewer opportunities in other sectors. The promise of the American dream felt increasingly out of reach for many, creating a sense of hopelessness and despair. The summer of 1967 was hot, both literally and figuratively, and Detroit was a tinderbox, waiting for a spark. That spark came in the early hours of Sunday, July 23, 1967. Police raided an unlicensed after-hours drinking club, known as a Blind Pig, on 12th Street. What began as a routine police action quickly escalated. As arrests were made, a crowd gathered, fueled by years of pent-up anger and frustration. A bottle was thrown, then another, and soon, the situation spiraled out of control. Looting and arson began, spreading rapidly from 12th Street to other parts of the city. The initial response from local authorities was overwhelmed. The Detroit Police Department, ill-equipped and largely distrusted by the community, struggled to contain the growing unrest. The Michigan State Police and the National Guard were called in, but even their presence failed to quell the violence. Snipers emerged, targeting both law enforcement and firefighters, turning the city streets into a war zone. Buildings burned, businesses were ransacked, and the sound of gunfire echoed through the night. The scale of destruction was immense, with entire blocks reduced to rubble. As the riot intensified, President Lyndon B. Johnson deployed federal troops, including elements of the 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions. Marking the first time federal troops had been used to quell a civil disturbance since the 1943 Detroit race riot. Their arrival, armed with tanks and machine guns, brought a new level of intensity to the conflict. The city was placed under a strict curfew, and a state of emergency was declared. The combined efforts of local, state, and federal forces eventually brought the violence to an end, but not before the city had endured 5 harrowing days. By the time the smoke cleared, the statistics were grim: 43 people had lost their lives, 33 of whom were African American. Over 1,189 were injured, and more than 7,200 people were arrested. Property damage was estimated to be in the tens of millions of dollars, with thousands of businesses and homes destroyed or severely damaged. The riot left an indelible scar on Detroit, accelerating white flight and contributing to the city's long economic decline. The Kerner Commission, established by President Johnson to investigate the causes of the 1967 riots across the nation, famously concluded that America was moving toward 2 societies, one Black, one white, separate and unequal. The Detroit Riot served as a stark illustration of this reality. The 1967 Detroit Riot was a pivotal moment in American history, a raw and painful expression of deep-seated racial injustice. It forced a national reckoning with the realities of segregation, poverty, and police brutality in urban centers. While the physical scars of the riot eventually faded, the social and economic wounds lingered for decades. The legacy of 1967 continues to shape Detroit, serving as a powerful reminder of the fragility of peace when justice is denied. and the enduring importance of addressing systemic inequalities to build a truly equitable society. The fire that raged in Detroit was a cry for change, a cry that still echoes in the ongoing struggle for civil rights and social justice.